So welcome back to my channel. This is Dom and an update on the Bruce's in Ireland project, and I'm getting very close to the point where I can have a game. In fact, I think I probably could have a game now. I just would like a couple more cavalry units and then I think I'm there to have a game. So really excited. So I thought I'd give you an update and just rattle through some of the new units that have been painted up. So this one spinning around in front of you, this is a unit of Footmen. So it's a mixed bag of, there's a couple of Medbury 3Ds, drink, a couple of Footsaw, Barrymore figures, there's even a Victrix, so spot them if you can. I've just done them up as a sort of mixed bag of sort of mercenary foot. Again, reading up as I have continued to do for this period, it seems like both sides made good use of mercenaries, and particularly the Anglo-Irish side did, and you know, therefore I think I'm going to make sure I have a good number of foot soldiers and mounted sergeants, that kind of stuff, because I think that reflects what I've read in terms of the Anglo-Irish army particularly. And although they weren't terribly experienced, not compared to the Scottish, they were sellswords, so they did tend to stand pretty well against the Scots, apart from when they got ambushed and cut down and their camp burnt like it did in a couple of battles. Anyway, that's another unit done. So next up, this is a couple of units of Kerns. Mentioned again in past videos, I'm aiming to get quite a few Kern units because, excuse me, again, from what I've read, there was a predominance of very lightly armed Irish warriors, and I'm aiming to have allies on both sides, on the Scottish and the Anglo-Irish side, of local lordlings and their numerous Irish warriors, and so it makes sense that Kerns predominate within these. So these two are, and you see again, I mentioned it in one of the first videos, I've sort of taken a template of the unit is 3 bases, so a standard unit is going to be 3 bases for Hail Caesar, but instead of packing the ranks for the more loose formation troops like these sort of more lightly armed Kerns, I'm only using 4 figures. On some of the slightly more heavyweight troops, I've put 5, and then the close formations, you've just seen the foot sergeants, for instance, they've got 6 figures on the base, and that way I can sort of reflect that sort of, I guess, looseness of formation. Now these figures are a mixed bag again. There are some Wargames Atlantic Dark Age Irish. There's also some Gripping Beast Dark Age Irish plastics. There's a couple also of Perrys in there as well. I put a couple of slingers in with them as well, even though predominantly they're going to be javelin armed, but just to reflect the sort of variety of missiles that would have been in there. And as well as basing them 4 to a base, I've tried to sort of make them quite dirty and not very uniformed, because again that sort of reflects the sort of reading you have of the period. So 2 more Kern units. So now one of the command stands. This is going to be the King of Ulster. Now Ulster was the place where the Scottish forces landed in Ireland when they initially invaded, and it was where they defeated the first English lord, and a number of Irish lords and locals rallied to support the Scots. So I'm planning to have Ulster as being one of the sort of allied formations for Edward and Robert Bruce in their formations. So this guy, I forget the name of the lord, but I'll put it down below, and probably I'd massacre it anyway in terms of my pronunciation. this will be him. Now it's the figures are I think this is a Perry bagpiper. The Lord is definitely a gripping beast Dark Age warrior with an axe. I just thought he was nicely regal, so I used him. And I can't for the life of me remember where the standard bearer guy came from. The standard itself I got off the Interwobble, one of my many internet rabbit hole searches, finding details on Irish lords, and I found that flag, so I kind of took it off and scaled it down and printed it onto for the flag there. So quite happy how this standard come out. Using Vallejo mud predominantly on all my bases for this for this armies, or for both armies for this, but also using some of the Vallejo water effect, sort of make it look muddy. Stereotyping Ireland, but it's called the Emerald Isle for a reason. So next up, this is a unit of Anglo-Irish heavy cavalry. They are going to be sort of mounted sergeants, that sort of thing. I sort of struggled a bit for liveries, because there doesn't seem to be an awful lot written about what liveries troops wore, so I've just taken a few liberties with the liveries, and used sort of red and white based colours for the shields, just to sort of kind of reflect the fact they're part of the Anglo-Irish factions. And the flags, I think for flags of war, it's a sheet of English flags, which I just put on as sort of, because there's not going to be an awful lot of flags in this army, because much to, I know some people like Leslie will be upset by that, but again, there doesn't seem to have been a predominance of flags, because I think a lot of the formations were mercenaries and sort of freshly raised troops. There didn't tend to be an awful lot of standards from what I can see, and heraldry doesn't appear to have had the same kind of impact in this period in Ireland as it did elsewhere. So these figures are metal First Corps cavalry. There's a couple of Crusaders, I think, there, because the pack from First Corps comes as 10 figures, or 10 cavalry, and they're nice figures actually. I quite like them. They've all got that sort of padded armour that was very, very common in the early period of the medieval period, and I quite like doing them up. It's a dead easy to paint job, because you just sort of effectively drag brush over a nice base colour, and then a wash, and then highlight it a little bit back up again, and basically the sculpting of the model does all the work for you. So, and I'll show at the end here some other pictures of these figures. So if you're interested, you can get a closer look. Next up, this is a unit of foot men-at-arms. These are going to be Scottish. They are, again, a mixed bag of Medbury and footsore, predominantly footsore figures for the Baron Wars. And I've just basically taken out the guys that look like sergeants and sort of made them into a nice close formation block. You can see that what I was saying earlier, with the Kerns only being 4 to a base, these guys are on 6s to a base, so they look much more dense formation wise, and that'll be reflected in their stats. Yeah, really like these, really like doing these. I've got another unit no, I haven't got another unit. I've got another unit of foot sergeants. So I think what I'm going to have is one unit of men-at-arms, which will be on the Scottish side, because again, reading what I read, it appears that certainly in the early period of the invasion of Ireland, the Scots came across with a lot of veterans from Bannockburn and the wars against the English. As time went by, many of them went back or were killed, but certainly in the early period, there were a lot of very experienced knights and men at arms and other soldiers with the Bruces. So this can be one of their units. Next up, this is a command stand of Edward Bruce. Mixed bag of figures, actually. These are, I think this is Andalusian. I always get the name wrong. Figure, I think this might be a footsore one. I think this one is a footsore, that one's a footsore, and I think this guy is, oh god, Conquest Games, something like that. A bit of a crowded base, but I thought it was a bit of fun. So you've got Edward with his heraldry that he had at Bannockburn. I don't know whether it changed when he became High King of Ireland, so I've kept the same heraldry and just used the figure with the crown on to denote the fact he's now King of Ireland. And a Scottish lion rampant, which seemed appropriate for this. So nice base, ready to lead the Scottish forces. So finally, for now, this is another command base. This is going to be a Anglo-Irish one. This is actually the Earl of Sutherland, I believe, who was Bannockburn against Robert the Bruce. And I just kind of took a few liberties. As I say, I've struggled a little bit in terms of getting flags and heraldry for different officers, but I just quite like this one, and plus it was dead easy to reproduce. So love these figures. The guy with the flag there is from Medbury, and these two are Gripping Beast Dark Age warriors, and they kind of go together quite well, I think. I love the broodingness of the Lord peering over the top of his shield, and this guy just drawing his sword ready to go into battle. So yeah, really pleased with how those three came out. The flag is this flag is from Flags of War. This one was obviously modelled on, and what I did was I found I had some little star cross transfers, which I think were on a Kickstarter from Carthage Must Be Destroyed. Really nice transfers. They're really good to use. And I just saw that they pretty much matched the standards flags, and so I've used them on this guy's shields and also on the flag there and on his tunic as well. So there you go. So yeah, we're pretty much there. I've finally, I think, let's have a quick, excuse me, scanning around, but finally prepared most of the figures now, I think. These are all the Kerns ready to go, so I've got a lot more to do. That's just officers and commanders of various descriptions. That's nondescript stuff. That's some Boniacs, and I think that's Gilgal. There's some more Hoplar, heavy cavalry there, and some crossbows. On the, in fact, just over there you can see a whole load of light cavalry. They are footsore, Welsh and Irish cavalry. So they will do up enough for 2 units of 12. And then I think we're pretty much there. There's some more knights, some more... let me put you back on a nice picture. There you go. There's some more Fireforge mounted sergeants, which I've made up. I have got another box of their archers, but I think actually 1 unit is going to be more than enough, so I'm not going to bother with that for the time being. I think if I can get the light cavalry done, maybe the mounted sergeants done, I've got some foot sergeants to do, and inevitably some Kerns. And if I finish off all this, that'll be more than enough for these 2 forces, I think, to give a bit of variety. And as I say, I think now I've actually got enough figures to have a game. So I think I will try and do that at some point. So anyway, there you go. So if you want to hang around, because there'll be some images of these figures in the light box, so a little bit clearer to see. But thanks for watching, thanks for the interest, thanks for the support on my little quirky Bruces in Ireland project, and thanks for seeing the journey through. next up will probably be a battle. So, looking forward to that. Anyway, stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you again soon. This is Dom, signing out.